Hello, welcome to my little hobby shop. Today I'm going to show you how to hand stitch a buttonhole. And in this case, I'm stitching two buttonholes in this little yoga skirt to add an elastic band. And that's to hold up this waistband here. So I just realized my elastic band is a little bit wider than the buttonhole I cut out here, so I'm going to cut it just a little bit bigger. And for that, we're going to use check the ripper, our seam ripper. It makes it easiest. And the reason why I still have to cut some more also is because I added some interfacing to the back. I cut a piece of interfacing about this long. You want to go past your buttonholes, and the reason for that is it's going to secure the buttonhole stitches and make sure nothing's going to frizz out or break sooner than it needs to. So the way I did that, I cut these little holes here. I took my interfacing and folded it. This is the ironing side here, the rough side, so I just folded it and one more time and kind of scooted in the first buttonhole, and then you can stretch it to move it into place and then iron the whole thing. And now we have to also cut the interfacing, right? So I'm going to do that. I'm just folding it over like that is the easiest way and cut the interfacing. Now we have the buttonhole, but like I said, it's a little bit too short, so I'm gonna make it a little bit of a longer cut, and be careful to pull that fabric out from the back because it's a double layer here. We don't want to damage the front of the waistband, so let's cut it a little bit longer. Of course, you can always measure it. That's the more precise way. In this case, it doesn't matter too much because it's on the inside of the waistband, but you can take your ruler and you can measure it. This is about a little bit less than a centimeter. Well, in that case, maybe a centimeter would be best. So we'll try to get it to a centimeter. And every time, being careful and diligent not to damage the back side, or actually the front side of the waistband. So let's see how this looks. That looks perfect. And then we'll do the same thing for the other buttonhole. I'm just pretty good at kind of estimating at this point. I've done quite a few of those now. You just have to have an eye for it too. And like I said, in this case, it's not too crucially important to make it super pretty. Of course, you don't want it to be ugly, but if it's not 100% perfect, it's not that big a deal. It's on the inside. It's really just there for function. But most buttonholes, you have them on the outside somewhere, and you want them to be perfect and look pretty, so you really want to make sure you measure correctly. So now we're going to outline the buttonhole first. And for that, I'm going to measure about 1 yard in length of the thread and the color that you needed for your project. So about a yard, about 1 meter. And then we'll fold here in the other direction. along the cut, about as well as you can. Well, first I want to put in the first stitch actually here on the very left bottom corner and go out about a couple of millimeters, if you can see that. And of course at the end of your thread you have a knot, and that's gonna go to the inside. And I have a little helper here, a plastic spoon. Also for the smaller buttonholes I like to use the stylus as my improv tool. And now we're going to make that fold I was talking about. So folding along the cut here. And then I go to the other end of the buttonhole and also make a stitch about 2 millimeters out, 2 millimeters up, and through to the other side to make sure we have about the same measurements. 2 millimeters out, 2 millimeters up, and that will give us the first part of the outline here. And on the top and the bottom we need a little outline, so I'll go through this stitch one more time from one side to the other. Making sure you always have your thread straightened out. And then make that stitch. And you want to be careful not to pull too tight. It doesn't have to be super tight. Now we go to the bottom again, 2 millimeters down. You see, we get all knotted up. So always trying to keep control of your thread. You don't want any knots, so you have to cut it all and start over again. And here the last outline, one more time, making a stitch from one side to the other to create that last line. And again, doesn't have to be too super tight, because when you unfold it, you want it to lay flat. Okay, so here is our buttonhole outline. Yes, we're just doing the outline so far. Buttonholes are a pain in the buttonhole. Little corny joke. Sorry. Okay, so now we're going to start with the first buttonhole stitch. And you can start here, you can start there, wherever you want to start. I always start here at the bottom with one stitch. And again, straightening out your thread. So you don't pull your needle through yet, just push it almost all the way up. And then you want to take your thread, bring it in front of the needle and under. Okay, can you see that? In front and under. Always keeping a good tension on your thread. And then you can direct where that stitch goes by how you hold, if you go to the left or if you go to the right. So you direct where that stitch is going to go. This is the first stitch. Perfect. Let's put one exactly in the corner where we started our outline. Again, taking the thread, bringing it in front of the needle and under. And if you don't like it this way, you can also just make your stitch, pull your needle through, Sorry for all the shaking in the camera here. And then you can go through the loop like this. So whichever way you do it, whichever way you prefer, it works better for you is fine. You just want to be consistent. That's the key in making buttonholes. You want to be consistent with your stitches. You want to put your stitches very close together, as close as you can. The more stitches you can put in, the cleaner it's gonna look. So be consistent, make them all evenly the same, and you just follow that outline here. Make sure you're picking up the interfacing as you push your needle through here, because that's what keeps everything in place and keeps it nice and neat. And you see how these stitches are forming here, and how that outline is really nice on the other edge, on the inside edge of the buttonhole. And we'll just keep doing that. So this is the therapy part. One stitch after the other. Trying to make them all as nice and tight as the last stitch. Always keeping a good tension on your thread. Keeping a good control on your thread, making sure you don't create any knots. Sorry about my accent. My daughter would have made fun of me. So this is almost like meditation once you get a hang of it. Until you make a mistake. And that will break your meditation. Stitch after stitch. And if this is boring you, or if you get the hang of it already, you can fast forward to whichever part is more important for you. I'll just keep stitching and keep talking, because that's what I do best. That's why my mom gave me the name Gabby. I guess she knew I was going to be Gabby. This is so much easier with a white thread. I just got done with 10 of these, all in black. And boy, that puts a strain on your eyes when everything's so dark. So now we're almost getting to the corner, and you see how I forgot to bring my thread in front of the needle. Now I have to fix it. And it's all good. One more stitch, and then we'll make the first corner stitch. So we're going to stitch in a corner right there on the outline. And not to forget to bring the thread in front of and under the needle. And then we'll go here to the top of the outline, and I'll put about 2 or 3 stitches in there. And there are various types of buttonholes you can make. It doesn't have to be square. Some buttonholes are round on one end. Those are really nice for blouses, or they're just a little bit more decorative. So let me see if I can bring my plastic end around a little bit. This can be a little tricky, but it's gonna end up looking just fine. Let's add one more here. And then I'm going to turn my plastic spoon here. Making sure we get the fabric and the interfacing all straightened out here. Want to make sure we catch the interfacing with every stitch. I'll place one more stitch here, and then the next one right in the corner, as you can see. And I'll just turn it, and we'll continue making stitches all along this outline here. Stitches as close together as possible, so one right next to the other to have a really nice and tight buttonhole. And as you might have seen, it's always easier to push that needle through almost all the way, so it's easier to grab it. Push it through, straighten the thread, and let's keep making stitches. Yep, here we forgot it again. Just grab that loop. That's perfectly okay. And it looks like I might have measured my thread a little bit too short, because this buttonhole is a little bit bigger than I had originally planned. And it's okay, I'll just cut the thread and secure it and start with a fresh one. That's no problem. If we need to. Alright, and that's really all there is to a buttonhole. It may look pretty easy, but in the beginning it's gonna be quite a challenge. But practice makes perfect, right? My first buttonholes looked horrible. And then I honestly didn't hand stitch any more buttonholes for a long time. I think my last buttonhole must have been 30 years ago, but I still know how to do it. I learned how to do it. So because my thread is about to run out here, I'm just going to secure it like this, just through as many stitches as possible. And I'll cut it off. And then I'll grab some more. I don't need too awfully much to finish it. So I'll be sure with the next one I will measure a little bit more than a yard, because this buttonhole ended up being almost a centimeter, which is about half an inch. So make a knot. And just start over where we left off, get right into that last stitch here. Push that knot in here, get it out of the way. So we'll go very close here for the next stitch. And thread in front of the needle. And we get some loops here. Want to straighten out that thread first. That's always the problem when you have a thread that's longer. It likes to bunch up and create knots. So you have to be careful to guide those long threads as you make your stitches. And so some people, they like to make their buttonhole stitches from the center of the buttonhole outward. I feel like I get a cleaner edge on the inside if I go from the outside in. I prefer it that way. And you might be able to see here where I started over. I didn't make the second stitch quite as close. You can see just a little bit of a gap. So that's what I meant with it earlier. The closer you get your stitches, the cleaner it's gonna look. And now we're almost getting to the other corner, to the end of the buttonhole. Yay. You saw how long that took. Guess it takes me about roughly half an hour to finish a buttonhole by hand. That's not going to be the case in the beginning. It might take you about twice as long. My first few buttonholes took me about an hour and 45 minutes. And now that this is all prepped and already had the interfacing placed and the cuts already measured and made, so still from beginning to end, a buttonhole is easily going to take you an hour. if I have several in a row lined up, then it might take me about 20 minutes. But that's really super fast if I get done in 20 minutes. And now I've got a little bit of experience with that. Here, the corner, just like the other corner. Sorry, I just scooted out a picture here. Just like the other corner, you just make a couple of stitches in the center after you made that corner stitch. So one more here in the center, and then I'm gonna go over the beginning stitch here in the corner, 1 or 2 stitches. If it doesn't look tight enough, place an extra stitch. If you already have a bunch of stitches, then 1 extra stitch is okay. And now we're done with the buttonhole. All I have to do is secure the thread. So I'm going to go underneath all of these stitches, and you see it's kind of tight. That's good. That means your thread is not just gonna come loose. So I'm trying to stitch through the entire side here. You want it to be nice and tight. And cut off the end. And that's it. Buttonhole finished. Not too bad, but you can see where I started over, so it definitely turns out cleaner if you measure your thread the correct length. Okay, well, have fun, enjoy making your buttonhole. If you have any problems, send me a message. If you would like me to do it for you instead, please send me a message. And if you like the content of this video, please give me a like, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and share it with others. Thanks. Enjoy your day.